Goran. I hope that everybody can hear me well. Thank you, David, also for organizing this event, and I think everybody are enjoying this. I will continue in Serbian, if you don't mind. My name is Martin Elezovic, and today I will talk on behalf of Green Building of Serbia Council, and will try to introduce what is the Green Building Council of Serbia. And I will talk about green buildings and certifications, and as a final topic, and what I would like to be final topic of this presentation is facility management and how it is closely connected with green buildings. Also, I will briefly tell you what are the topics and green buildings officially certified in Serbia. Serbia Green Building Council was established in 2010, and it has over 45 members. Practically, those were a group of enthusiasts which brought together in order to promote ideas of sustainable growth. And some of these objectives and goals of this council were to raise awareness on the importance of green buildings and sustainability in the field of construction industry, as well as to educate and to support legal authorities when making decisions on regulations and legislative in our country. Out of all these, the greatest focus was on education and our members' influence, and they are also as well as members of many working groups working on adoption of many laws, guidelines on certification of green buildings, as well as all other directives concerning materials, etc., etc. We also, in principle, in one place within the Serbian Green Building Council, you can find a great number of companies operating in our market and represent leaders of companies dealing with green building in Serbia. Before I go further, I would like to announce, unofficially, but I hope it will become official, that the Serbian Green Building Council enters its next stage of actions, and of course we invite all those of you who are interested in to participate and to contact us, and if you would like to become a member of the Serbian Green Building Council and thus to contribute to its development. In the last week, we elected some new people within our management. Some of them are among us today, but I would like to announce that we start a new cycle, and we expect in the future to be more active. Now, briefly, what are green buildings and how they should be looked at. It is not enough to be at first sight green, whether they are painted in green color. The last picture on right or left, the creation from Pirot. These buildings are all green, but what makes them to be green buildings? Whether these green buildings or they look like this? You cannot say at first sight. Precisely, these two slides represent two buildings which do not look like green buildings, but according to certain criteria, these are two of the most green buildings existing in the world. This colorful on your right side is the building of Pixel in Australia, and on the left side is the building of Eagle, which is in the Netherlands. And these two buildings are the great points according to the system of certification of buildings. I will talk about it later on. Green buildings can be named as sustainable buildings, and it can be seen as a kind of synonym. And I think that it is much proper to be called sustainable buildings. And through definitions, you will see terms as environmental responsible, source efficient, buildings life cycle, etc., etc. Generally speaking, definition of green buildings is usually based on a triple bottom line, which is a concept developed in the UN, and they try to define it what is a sustainability. Triple bottom line sees sustainability from three aspects: economical, social, and environmental aspects. Ecological, let's say, aspect. So it is not enough to be efficient in one of these three categories. You have to be efficient in all three of them in order to gain sustainable growth. Why green buildings? And what is the purpose of these green buildings within the concept of sustainable development? Shortly, you can see some global parameters and to see what is the responsibility of buildings from the impact of consumption of certain resources and various emissions. As you can see, I wouldn't go into details, but for example, energy use from 30 to 40, then 33% of CO2 emissions. Then CO2 emissions is very important because it is one of the most efficient ways to be reduced within buildings, and it is the most efficient way to do it within buildings. If you have in your mind such aspect, how much building influence environment, then you can conclude that it is important to take care of designing buildings, exploiting them, etc., etc. According to certain surveys, and a great number of the respondents, it turns out that green buildings can have a principle and that great savings can be made. Of course, as you can say, savings of energy up to 50%, then CO2 emissions up to 39%, water use 40%, of material up to 70%. These are, of course, some global data, and depends on various projects, and you have certain project that is not so properly in assumptions, and then they will turn higher figures. Of course, generally speaking, and the general trends, green buildings contribute and make shifts forward concerning sustainable use of energy, resources, and all other parameters defined related to green building. Also, it is important not only triple bottom line principle, it is also important not only to view the impact on environment and people, but also this should have economic aspects as well. And you can see what are the benefits of green buildings. For example, you can expect that to have a great impact, and these percentages, when turned and converted into percentage of the value of real estate, you can have millions of savings during some life cycle of building. For example, there are certain estimates that the value of some real estate goes up to over 7.5 growth, and average rents of green buildings in comparison to traditional ones up to 3%. And they have over 3.5 occupancy ratio within these green buildings. And we can have some example from Australia, Pixel building. When this building got a certification, everyone wanted to be within this building because it was something high-tech at that moment, and that was the most popular to be within this building. And it is also important to see the promotion of a society of certain values. They promote green buildings, and later on we ask ourselves what are the things that we promote. Also, I also wanted to mention that there are certain examples and situations where green buildings are used only for marketing campaigns. That is something we do not support generally, and we do not promote this principle, but it's probably better than not to do anything. Of course, as Goran mentioned, that we have to change our mindset about all these things, and of course, this is some direction which we think that is good, and we will continue to go in that direction. These previous slides showed that it is not enough for building to be a green building to make it green. And what makes it green is something that cannot be seen at first sight. That is something hidden behind building, behind green facade. And there is a question how to estimate, how to measure, and to see whether some green building is green. And now we reach these systems for criteria of green buildings, such are LEED and BREEAM. And in the following next slides, I would like to say something about this. The existing systems, LEED and BREEAM in our country, BREEAM is a British standard, while LEED is American standard, and there is a great number of buildings already certified according to these certifications and criteria, and French standard. HQA, French people pronounce it indifferent, DGMB, Climaactive is from Austria, etc., etc. Each country has its own direction, but I would like to say that LEED and BREEAM are the leading standards in the world currently. We talk about several 10,000 million square meters, and that is one movement which is becoming more powerful every day. And how does this system operate? This triple bottom line, they developed in several other categories. For example, LEED has some 5 main categories plus one, which and takes into concern water efficiency, then indoor environmental quality, and materials and resources used. BREEAM gets into detail when we talk about its division, and has categories related to management, comfort, energy, transport, pollution, materials, waste. It also relates to the part concerning the pollution. Of course, briefly, I wouldn't like to get into details. These systems can be seen as one big checklist of almost forgotten things, but during the time, due to the budget or time limit, people quit these systems because of its complexity and haven't included within the project. This is a way to return it, and the project could be seen from other aspects, not only through money or benefits concerning time of its implementation, but we should introduce some other parameters that would be specific and define the quality of that building, and these systems provide it to be done.
LEED posmatra, znači,
takes into consideration, and there are adopted systems to new buildings. For existing buildings, LEED, for example, has BDNC, Building Design and Construction for new buildings, and OM, and Building Operations and Maintenance. And this is a point where facility management can be interesting. Of course, there is new construction when we talk about BREEAM, and the specific system which is for in exploitation.
Ovdje dolazimo sada do onoga gde je u stvari zašto sam hteo da govorimo o zelenim zgradama i
green buildings and facility management. Facility management is the field which practically
dobije zgradu u ruke i
building and facility managers are responsible for exploitation of such buildings. It can be designed, but if it is badly managed, you will have certain problems and this building will not be efficient and not green.
To sve može da se stavi neku perspektivu životnog troška.
Can be seen through life cycle costs of building, and if you can see through this graphic presentation on left side, this purple part practically covers
plate zaposlenih.
User salaries. If you take life cycle of building and the salaries of employees, you can see that these salaries of employees are the greatest cost during the life cycle of a building. And if we exclude this purple part and this small part of pie and spread it to the whole cycle, then we get the second most important building operating costs.
Ovo crveno praktično predstavlja construction cost, a ono plavo predstavlja design cost. Tako da možete da vidite praktično design cost na ovom levom delu ne vidi, znači on je praktično jedna spojena linija tamo u onom belom. Ali možete da vidite da odluke koje se donose prilikom dizajna utiču jako puno kasnije, mogu da utiču negativno na
impacts on this green part, life cycle cost of a building, and this purple part of pie referring to salaries. And how does it impact salaries? We will hear later on about it.
Ovde su date osnovne
you can see general information about green buildings and facility management, overlapping, and green buildings contribute to better conditions of working place. We could have heard about organization structures of different organizations, and we can see that they can be organized in different ways. For example, as some parameter you can see here, according to the survey, you cannot read it, but for example, outside views can influence up to from 10 to 25% of mental function and memory of some employee. If these 10 to 25 copy to the previous graph to that purple part of the life cycle of a building, you can conclude and imagine that if you increase productivity for a certain percentages, you can make huge savings within a company, and you have overlapping of green buildings and facility management. If we have designing of projects according to criteria of green buildings and have a facility management working on it hardly, then facility management becomes a part of green buildings and contributes to the further development of buildings. There are some other parameters and indicators and some other factors, and I hope that you understood it. What is the point of it? Now, I wanted to show you mind mapping tool, which starts from the middle, from the center, and this is certification system which start branching to some other sectors and to some third and fourth and fifth level. Facility management appears in several of them. This now doesn't function properly. I just wanted to underscore. apologize for my mistake. This mind mapping for facility management.
U centru je facility management, sve ove kasne funkcije koje proističu, svi facility managers to dobro znaju, mislim koliko stvari treba da se kontrolišu toku jednog procesa. I ovde, kao što možete vidite, su neke zaokružene oblasti koje utiču u nekom regularnom poslu facility managera na zelene zgrade. Bilo da su to da se odnosi na reciklažu, bilo se odnosi na neki risk management, kao što su poplave
or floodings, or
bilo da se radi o nekim pregovorima za dostizanje električne energije, znači sve to može da utiče na
energy consumption, everything can influence green buildings.
I sada imamo ove dve ovako spojene stvari. Kao što vidite, imamo na izgled dve jako komplikovane i kompleksne stvari. Znači, s jedne strane je mind mapping za facility management, s druge strane mind mapping za sistem sertifikacije zelenih zgrada.
Green buildings certification system.
Sada bi mi trebali da prođemo svaku od ovih tačkica ponaosob, ali mislim da nemamo vremena za to. Ali možete da steknete praktično sliku o tome da su i facility management ponaosob i same zelene zgrade ponaosob dve jako kompleksne stvari. Kad ih spojimo, možda na prvi pogled deluje možda nemoguće da se mogu spojiti. Međutim, imajući u vidu koje benefite možemo da imamo, smatramo da je bitno i da je potrebno načiniti taj neki ekstra otrčati taj extra mile i ostvariti takvu zgradu. Da li je nemoguće to ostvariti? Naravno da nije. Znači, potrebno je da imate motivisane učesnike u čitavom procesu i onda zaista nije problem. Takođe, imate dobre konsultante koji to mogu da isprate. Što se tiče projekata koji postoje u Srbiji, koji su primjeri da se ovakve stvari zaista mogu raditi i da zelene zgrade postoje u Srbiji, da će ih biti sve više i više. Imamo recimo LEED projekte, ITP Park Indija, imamo u Crnotravskoj jedan rezidencni objekat, GTC House je sertifikovao svoje projekte po sistemu postojećih zgrada, sada je krenuo i za nove zgrade. Uče shopping center će takođe ići i još neki drugi objekti. Oni praktično imaju sertifikat. BREEAM sertifikat postoji za Blue Center i to je praktično najveći poslovni objekat u Srbiji koji ima sertifikat. Očekuje se da će uskoro biti, kao što sam malo pre napomenuo, GTC 41, dobit će li sertifikat, zgrade Navigator, Višnjička plaža, Adam Mall, GTC Square,
GTS Square, 90 Avenue, Atrium Belgrade offices. When we talk about BREEAM expected, our office building Belgrade, Atrium, Shopping Center Belgrade, and Office Tower Belgrade. Some of these things I couldn't name properly because I cannot disclose what are the buildings we are talking about, but I just wanted you to see that there is one trend and growth in certification, and what I would like to underscore is that certification systems can be a very powerful tool in the field of facility management because they can show them and help them and support them to improve their procedures and implement their principle of green building. That was from my side, and once again, I would like to welcome you, and if you have any questions, I'm glad to and open to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. So, green buildings are not green because they are painted green. I will use the opportunity and I will ask you the first question. Is there a place for a common green or certificates, common European, let's say, certificates, because we saw that there is quite a variety. We have LEED, we have BREEAM, we have the NGB. Are they so different, and can we have a common European standard for green buildings?
Yeah. Well, I think the first standard appeared in 1990, and after that we had a different others coming. So the first one was BREEAM, after that LEED appeared, and nowadays we have many others. Yeah, somehow I expect this to happen. There is some initiative, I think, on European level to establish some environmental assessment method. How far it will go and when it will be ready, I'm not sure. So I think now currently Europe is still struggling with the 2020 goals. So basically this is maybe not a priority on their agendas.
Yeah, for sure, but these 2020 goals should be measured somehow, and maybe kind of a certification will be the right tool for measurement. What are the results? Because still we have something like 3.5 years till 2020, and still we have a lot of things to do. And looks that there is quite a big gap between the building owners, because they are forced by requirements by the European Union. Then we have the financial institutes and the financial funds that actually have to spend money in order to optimize the building performance and to reduce all the carbon and energy emissions by 20%. But still there is quite a big gap between them, and they still didn't talk to each other.
Yes, I agree in general, but we must look on those sustainable building principles. They are going much above the minimum requirements defined by law. Yeah. So basically, currently, even in Serbia, we are struggling with energy certificates and so on. So basically, those buildings who really have this green building certificate, I mentioned only 5 in Serbia. So basically, they're not leaders. They are really some really on the top of the hill of everybody who are thinking in this direction. So I think they should be really promoted more, and they should be presented as examples of somebody who is really leading and pushing the market in front. So again, coming back to the common certification method, maybe it will happen in the future, but nowadays I think the opposite trend is appearing, that many countries are developing their own. So maybe in the future ISO or N committee will make something, but I don't know.
You mentioned that there are just a few projects, because we know that such a certificate is an investment. I wouldn't say big or small, but it's an investment. Who is sitting behind the initiative of developing and implementing such standards in the buildings? Are the building owners, they want just to have a certificate or really want to improve? Is there because of the future tenants which are looking for a better environment within the buildings? Who is actually the initiator of certification of the buildings?
I think there are today, at least in Belgrade, it's maybe 2 main drive forces. One is market. So market is pushing today. I think all new buildings are undergoing some sort of certifications in Belgrade. So basically, it's market driven. How it started? Probably it started by some corporate governance. So basically, they established a requirement that every building in their portfolio needs to be LEED certified. And this is maybe initiator, and after that, the others are looking around, and then they are doing again the certifications because the others are doing. And now I think it will be, if you start building without certificate, you will be maybe the only one who is not having it. So it's more or less becoming a trend.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, for me, more the question is whom should we educate? The building owner or the building occupant?
Well, I think the hardest is to educate the occupant, because the numbers are quite big, and you have simply different types of the occupiers and so on. I think as an initial idea to start BREEAM, of course, it's the owner, and then in order to have a successful certification, then you need to have a good contractors and the good design teams. And this is process where we are going now. I'm participating in several certifications here in Belgrade, and whichever team I'm approaching, almost nobody has experience with that. So basically, it's a hard process for us to educate all of them and after that to get the results from them. So it's a two-step process, and it's really hard to pass, but simply this is the situation of the market, and we are finding some ways.